We will keep a close eye on how things develop in Dallas, Texas. Do you want to continue in Sacramento, California, or in San Francisco, California, and where we will talk about the next edition? Who are we talking about in Sacramento? That's a very good point. Not Aaron Fox anymore. Then I mean, of course, San Antonio, Texas. That would have been a much better transition. Shall we stay in Texas or go over to California? We'll just pretend we edited that now. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Julius, shall we stay in Texas to talk about the next edition or go over to San Francisco? Sunny California, or rather in our own experience, not quite so sunny California. Can you imagine, I have a homie of mine who just took a selfie with Scus. He just posted a picture, blue sky, Golden Gate Bridge behind him. Great. And that was already 2 days ago. I thought to myself, this can't be serious. Oh no. Well, let's stay in Texas. Very gladly. And talk about De'Aaron Fox, who has now already played his first 4 games. For his new team in these 4 games, he averages 21 points, 9 assists. Career high offensive rating. I have one word for you, game changer De'Aaron Fox. In this team, he really changes everything. Everything, only 56% shooting so far. Many of these tough step-back threes haven't really been falling yet. Also here, before the chemistry with Wamby is there, it will take a while. We're talking about 2 of the best players in the world who have gotten a bit used to each other, even if they are very compatible position-wise. It will take its time. In this respect, I have nothing to say about it. De'Aaron Fox just brings an element, which the team has been missing so far, namely dribble, penetration, rim pressure, and then making plays. Like how often he has already broken the opponent's defense in these 4 games and then kicked it out to Harrison Barnes, to Stephen Castle, to Wamby, to whoever, and created advantages. Made the defense compress and focus on him. That's remarkable. We now see that the Spurs now also have someone who can create his own shot on the perimeter, which has always been a bit the thing, Wamby. As a creator, that needs a little more time. It still has to mature a bit until Wamby really is a creator also for his teammates and himself having his own shot, etc. Until he is really at the highest level. And what we've simply always observed is that the Spurs have no one who can really, out of the pick and roll, out of dribbling, create his own shot. Even in the non-Wamby minutes, and now they've brought in a player who can do that at the highest level, always bringing a pick and roll, as I said, to the basket, attacking after switches in one-on-one, advancing the ball, and then making plays, especially in the crunch time. I watched the final phase live against the Hornets, which unfortunately we lost very narrowly because both went out half a second too late, but even there he made that layup just before the end, where Miles Bridges then responded and then made that 3, he just let his hand go a little too late. So you already saw the vision of just having that shot created for tight crunch time games. We have not seen so much ultra-tactical, well-executed stuff yet. Many pick and rolls, of course, many isolations, some double dummies. Dre, sometimes with Wamby as one of the screeners. Some Chicago actions, some pin downs where he then comes up and gets to the ball. One scene thrilled me when Chris Paul advanced the ball and the first double drag ball screener was Fox and the second was Wamby. I don't know who they played against, but the defense had no clue what was happening. Then Wamby rolled out. CP3 passed the ball to Fox, who then drove to the basket and finished super easy with a layup. So they really have all options open. I also like that so far they are still starting with Paul and Fox and closing games. In the long run, of course, it will be Stephen Castle alongside Fox, but especially now for the starters, I think it can't hurt to have someone like Chris Paul still emerging on the court. Yes, the Spurs are already a different team in transition compared to the time before. And as I said, Wamby, Fox pick and roll, that's coming over time. So far, we've seen relatively many switches, where either Wamby then gets the ball and went to work or Fox went to work. I don't know how to do this if game wants to stop long term. So, yeah, San Antonio is a completely different team now, especially offensively. And De'Aaron Fox is a complete game changer for this team so far. 2 comments. First, I want to briefly play devil's advocate or be a critic. However, overall, I was nodding approvingly throughout your talk. I agree. It's an absolute game changer. Especially evident in your debut game in Atlanta with 24 points and 13 assists. He was efficient, except his three-pointer wasn't great. In Washington's last game, they won with 30 points and 6 assists. There are already some really good things there, like fierce deer against the Hornets, but stumbled out of the field in Charlotte and Orlando. Especially, the Orlando game was very shaky with 9 points, 5 turnovers. So there have already been ups and downs in these first 4 games. But especially my question to you, why the hell is Chris Paul still starting on this team? It didn't look bad so far. It's a good question, and in the long term, he will definitely not continue to start. I don't know, maybe if you just make the transition a little easier. Chris Paul has worked in lineups with multiple guards in the past. And it can, I think, just not hurt to have another ball handler and such a play-intelligent player to ease Fox a bit into it. That was crazy thinking. To make it just easier to get in here and not give him the offensive reins completely right away, but just have another connector piece with him. I don't think it's bad. Okay, but you agree that in the medium and long term, especially at Christmas. Yes, even if they reach the playoffs this year, he has to come off the bench with Castle. It's cleaner and safer to use him in second units. Absolutely, that's the perfect role. For example, last year with the Warriors, just now in a more traditional system, where I can really imagine that he can flourish much better than a bit of, I'm done, your turn with Fox. I agree, it didn't look super bad so far. But so far it was the Hawks, Hornets, and Wizards defenses, and then against the Magic it didn't look so great again. It just makes much more sense to let them come off the bench more staggered. Then you always have one of them on the court. And even at this old age and these criticisms that we had of Paul during the season, which is why it's such a fresh wind in literally the meaning that De'Aaron Fox is now in, because he has much more pace, much more drive to the basket, comes more to the line, etc. All things that simply Chris Paul at this stage career is winding down and he can't deliver them as much anymore. Which is why I also really like the two-man game with Wemby so far, very good with Fox compared to the CP3 and Wemby duo before, but CP3 still as a more potent playmaker and floor general from the bench, and then full throttle in the starting lineup with Fox, with Castle, with Wemby. And give him athleticism, speed still. Somewhat shooting, but that's also a question mark with Chris Paul, that's a question mark in all lineups. Would much prefer. I hope that we'll see that direct